bill of 104 billion has been passed. I don't know the system, a lot of stuff. What they want to do is they want to make it possible for a few people to benefit from the vast resources that are in our country, Kenya. That is what they are going to do. And unfortunately, a lot of individuals are still blinded with these stupid shenanigans of politics that is going around, and they're like, oh, Gachagua, nothing will happen to him. Oh, this is just but a front. The real game is being played behind the television, behind the mainstream media, where eyes cannot see. That's why we should labor really hard to ensure and tell people that a private Kenya won't do us anything. There's a main reason as to why a country needs systems to function. Systems smoothen everything, smoothen the functioning of a country. Now, without systems, or rather with a private country, those systems are channeled, or rather are made to benefit a few individuals, and those few individuals will sit there, siphon your money, do everything they want, cripple you guys, and then you're left crying. We will be lucky if our Kenyan shilling survive what they are planning to do, or else tutafanyika tu kama Zimbabwe, currency yetu itaenda iko ufala, tujikute tumeanza kutumia US dollar. That's what I can say at the moment. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, OKK, for that submission. The little brother Bernard, who also is my brother, so I don't know why unabadilisha jina nitakusema, by the way. Anyway, thank you so much for that. I see Oseyo is in the building. Oseyo, habari yako? Oseyo, sikusikii ndugu yangu. You'll have to request the microphone again. Hannah, how are you doing?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much. I've been thinking and asking myself, and that's why I think they do not understand. If they privatize some things, you mean that your taxes will become less? That's a question everybody needs to ask themselves. Will your taxes become less? Because since up to this point, we have been giving them taxes. You have to ask yourself, now the taxes, are they going to become less? That is a no. That means the money will still be taken in, and itaenda to benefit someone else who is not in the system again. So what we need to do, for example, in the question of IDs that we are being issued, that it needs also a private company for 10 years, because very soon you'll be hearing, we have bought the first machine. The first machine is not working very well, so we bought another new machine. There are so many backlogs, so we need a private company to come in. This will affect everything. And the thing is, when you ask that person, I think because he said it was a system that he took from France. And I'm like, God, does this man know what it means? Because I'm here and I can tell you why. The reason as to why they give you those IDs, it is.
Nini sasa? Nini sasa?
Oh, sorry. Imejifunga kidogo.
Oh, kidogo ni laani watu, pole. Okay.
Because sababu, okay, for example, France was colonized so many people in the west and in the north of Africa. So these people, they can come in as students. Others can come in as casual workers. Do we have those in school in Kenya? We do not have those type of people there. When people come to work here, for example, there's a company that has given you work, and so you are given a contract. So your contract is for 4 years or 10 years. So you need to go every 5 years so that they can know and they can trace who you are. Is that the case in Kenya? It is not the case in Kenya. So you see, those IDs, they were not logically for us. So every time you're going to go there and ask for 5 years or 10 years ID. It's as if you are not a part of that country. Hiyo inakumbushaga mtu wewe si wa France, wewe si Mfaransa. So imagine you are in Kenya na bado unakumbusha wewe si Mkenya, so you have to come back, and you know the backlog that already has in that level. Yani ni ujinga tupu tu, iko ni pesa tu, hakuna kitu kingine. Huduma namba tulianzia na huduma namba, tukatoka hapo tukachange driving license, tukatoka hapo tukachange ID. Sasa then we are going to I'm telling you, that country of ours is just looting. There is nothing more than anything else, just looting everything. For example, when it was time of COVID, and you hear that Uhuru amechukua pesa yenye ilikuwa inatakana kusaidia watu, then amepatia private companies so that people can still work. You're like, private company, hizo private, unadhani ni private companies za mtu Mkenya? No, ni za wazungu walikuwa napewa so that they don't close. So you people in Kenyans were paid by Kenyans themselves so that private company kama Coca-Cola ibakia hapo. Just look for there is no logic. So this is why I'm saying privatization will not work. For example, that one in KQ, the air. So hiyo ni mlango yenyu, mnagonga, mnaulizwa, unapita, unaingia, unatoka, lipa. Wewe ni Mkenya na unaambiwa lipa uingie. So it will be the same thing that what is happening with national parks. You are Kenyan, mnalipa kidogo. Wewe wengine sio wa Kenya wanalipa more, but still you'll have to pay. So the question should be, if they are privatizing everything, are your taxes going to be less? That's a question that we should ask those parliamentarians who are asking, are telling us all these stupid things, especially Murkomen. Huyo alienda hapo na gluttony. Then does that mean ile pesa zote zenye tumefanya hizo stadium nazo zimeibwa, zimepotezwa, are they going to be given back to you guys? It's not possible. So that means hizo ni pesa zenyu zimepotea, already ziliibwa, kuna stadium hazikumalizika. You will not even go for those people because we're contractors, because the thing is, maybe after sometimes your case itapotea as usual, because hiyo ni koti zetu hatujuagi vile zina function since the lady me I'm telling you, they are doing everything to make hakuna mtu akona goodwill mwenye iko kwa hiyo country sahi ati atasema I'm standing for this company, this job in the government, and I'm doing my level best. Kama Okiya Mtata na Onyonka, the rest, they are just people who are supposed to go. And is that the thing, that one nimeambiwa sijui Lakeside lady huyo mama Odinga ameenda kusema sijui Waiguru ndio atakuwa king. Hiyo ni uongo tu. It will never happen. Hatuwezi toa mwizi tuweke mwizi mwingine hapo. And it's not about kingpin. Wakikuyu, they hate being led by women. They hate being led by women. So wacha kuniachia hapo anyway. Tutaongea. I'll still be logging. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Hannah. I see Oseyo is in the building. Oseyo, you can hear me? Let me know you can hear me now. Oseyo looks like wewe sasa kesi yako iko na mkubwa. Are you there, Oseyo? Allah. So for those who are joining in right now and wondering what you're talking about, you're asking, are you ready for private Kenya? Looks like most of you don't even want to think about it. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Why are you for it? Why are you against it? I remember we have had a lot of these conversations when it comes to privatizing Kenya. Where kama Mkenya una feel aje? Do you want your country to be in the hands of other people? Will it improve efficiency? Is efficiency above or more important than that? Now, I want to also bring it to attention that interns have gone on strike, and this is why. The government and KMPDU sat down and agreed, you know, guys, and that is why I really question kama kina Davji, they do not choma this thing. So they sat down and decided, hey, bro, so we are not going to pay interns, okay? Why? because there's a case in Eldoret law courts where the interns are compelling the government to pay them a salary. Oh, yeah. The KMPD are like, yeah, sure. So, but the other ones in the CBA will be handled. They are like, yes. Okay, good. That is a good one. So they go back to their people and tell them, yo, let's go back to work. And they're asked, how about the interns? Okay, the interns, we will work on them. In 3 months' time, their case will be heard. We will employ interns. And also, of course, don't you worry, guys. On top of those interns, we will not be employing them anybody right now, and will not even be paying them a salary. For now, we will just deal with those who are here. Now, Dr. Desiree Mora dies, and then they come up with another narrative. They're like, now, you see, these interns need what we call mental health support. So what we do, let's bring mental health support everywhere. Now, yesterday there was a court case about that same case. Now it was being mentioned in Eldoret, and the interns are there waiting, hopefully, for their case to be mentioned. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, the court postponed the hearing, I think the ruling, up until October 17th. So the interns wamesema, hatutapigana na nyinyi, wacha tufanye hivi, wacha tuweke hizi mawembe chini, masindano chini, tukutane 17th. So I don't know if it is happening in every county, or it is just something that I've seen on the news. Is it happening? Are interns on strike right now? Sijui nani anaweza nipatia update kwa hiyo. Owira, umepita kwa news leo? Ala, nimekuwa nikijihubiria hii time yote. Oh Lord.
Welcome to the home run with Pipi.
Sijui kama Western amenisikia. What Western, are you there?
Amir, I can hear you loud and clear.
I want to engage you on this health issue now that everybody has decided to go. Let me engage you on this health issue. You have seen the new social health insurance fund and its rates, yeah, and it's clearly not looking at the patient even once. Achana tele kujaribu kumwangalia. They're not even looking at the patient once, because how do you set, what do you call it, optical for 900 and 1,000 shillings for a whole household? So I was thinking, is it that because there are people who are in the medical industry, like doctors or hospitals, that are having vested interests behind SHIF, and that is why we are having these issues? Like watu wanaambiwa itotalipa we are paying a lot of premium and no money that is going to be paid to hospitals. What do you think about that? And the system, remember, is 104 billion, which is payable right now, and the country will pay back 10 years that loan. What do you think?
Okay, Peter, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Well, first, the question you are saying, are we ready for a private Kenya? It's rhetorical. It's rhetorical because, Kenya is run like a private entity, even as we speak now. I think we get hot under the collar when, alien actors are mentioned. But in reality, Kenya is in the hands of private individuals. Of course, local ones in cahoots with the external accomplices. I think that's a fact that cannot be honestly refuted, in the sense that if you read reports on inequalities in Kenya, for instance, you'll be told that 10%, top 10% of the households in Kenya control 42% of the total income. And a small fraction of the political elite that is in politics, in business, and stuff like that, have got virtually interests in the entire gamut of the Kenyan economy. Whether you're talking about health, as you're putting it now, whether you're talking about the education sector, whether you're talking about agriculture, whether you're talking about aviation, whether you're talking about conservancy, name it, that they've got interest in the entire gamut of the economy. And these are, the Kenyattas, the Mois, the Kibakis, whatever. Now William Ruto is playing catch-up. Those are private interests. They make profit, and that profit goes into their pockets and gets into offshore bank accounts. It's not plowed back into public coffers to provide basic services. So health, Pipita health is crucial, especially in a developing country such as Kenya, because you need healthy people to have a healthy economy. If you don't have healthy people, one, you lose in terms of man hours. People are moving in and out of hospital, sick leaves and stuff like that. That impacts on the overall economic productivity. But of greater effect is that people spend money, those who have, on treatment, on hospitalization, either locally and those who can afford abroad. And that eats into their savings, their disposable incomes, and that pushes them deeper into poverty. Such that a government that does not prioritize rolling out of quality healthcare to all and sundry, every other citizen, has got a policy of systematically impoverishing people. That's a policy. You will not find it in any book. We say, chapter what and what of the Constitution, this law. No, you won't find it written like that. But the way they conduct themselves, the way this new health insurance thing is structured and funding, the money you're putting 1,000, I don't know, for an entire household, and those could be how many people? It could be even 10 people. It could be even 15 people. We don't have an ideal family where you see you have got one father, mother, and a child. Even if there were 3 people, this is not enough. What it means is that is a policy of systematic impoverishment of people. Like you sink people deeper into poverty. Because even people who work, they will tell you that they spend a huge chunk of their income on healthcare, on education, on food, and if they are living in urban areas, on transport, and then housing. You get it? So, going back to governments, as we are speaking about leftist governments and governments like the Kenyan successive governments that believe in free market economy, governments that center people in development prioritize these key areas. Health, that you're going to roll out affordable quality healthcare for all and sundry, and you'll subsidize it. You're going to ensure that there's food security so that people don't spend a lot of money on food and be left with nothing to save for a rainy day. You're going to make education affordable and quality to all and sundry, so that it's not exclusive to only those who can afford at the market rate. That if you want your child to have a fighting chance in life, they must enroll in a private school. A government that cares is very cautious about that. Then transportation, you've got good infrastructure. For instance, ask yourself why you would come up with a project as massive as SGR, and then you set up a terminal in Syokimau, far away from CBD. If you go the other end along the coast in Mombasa, the terminal is equally far away from CBD. So you have to get into a taxi, or somebody must come and collect you when you arrive in Nairobi or you arrive in Mombasa. If you travel around, integrated transportation system, you connect all these things. You connect the road network, you connect it to the air transport, you connect it to the railway network, so that the train drops you right in the CBD of Nairobi. So you can walk and go wherever you're going. If you've got an appointment in the CBD, you can walk to that office. Or if you have to get into a taxi, it's not going to eat into your income. Or if you are arrived at an airport, you get into a train right in the middle of the airport, and it takes you to the CBD or wherever you're going. These people don't do that. So that you realize you spend a lot of money. If you have to catch a train in Syokimau, if you're coming from that other end of the city. Now, that kind of transport system does not help in people saving money. It becomes exclusive, those who can afford. But that railway network, the philosophy you would think was to ensure that it moves people from the road. People are moving from Nairobi to Mombasa and back. Move people from the road because of road carnage, congestion on the road, and there are trucks on the road. Now move people onto the railway network. But how do you move people onto the railway network? You must make it affordable. But here they were telling you they've come up with a coach that will make you break your bank if you have to get into that first class coach. I don't know, 20,000 return ticket from Nairobi to Mombasa. And the logic is that they want people who travel business class to also have the same experience on land. Now, Peter, when you've got governments that behave like that, you are sure that they've lost touch with the kind of societies that they are supposed to serve. Majority of Kenyans cannot afford that kind of thing. They can't. And if you take them back onto the road, you're also putting their lives at risk, which this railway was supposed to curb. You get it? And then food security. If you don't subsidize farmers so that they're competitive, and they can produce food competitively, and that the food can be affordable to many people in Kenya, including those who may not have pieces of land, those who may not have, people in rural areas who can send them food when they run short of food in urban areas, but they can still afford food in urban areas. That has to do with the production. You have to subsidize farmers. You have to ensure to cushion these farmers against importation of things that farmers are producing. Things like milk, eggs, all sorts of perishables, rice, maize, sugar. You have to ensure you only import to offset what shortfalls in the domestic production. But what we have got chronic capitalists systematically kill local industries. They kill the sugar farming, they kill the maize farming, they kill the dairy farming, they kill everything. And then they import these things from elsewhere and make some crazy, markup profits out of that. These are state, and the state abates those kind of things. What do? You impoverish people, Peter. You impoverish people. Education. We've been talking about education here now. Education is central to addressing poverty and inequalities in any normal society. So there's no country that will play games with education. You must roll out affordable, quality education, and that's a function of the state. It's not a function of private entities. Private entities are into profit, whether it's in health. And this is not just about Kenya. Even the US has got a crappy health care system, very crappy. They've been trying to, address it. Obama tried. They haven't managed. It's one of the worst. It doesn't serve all and sundry. It's exclusive. Even in South Africa, they have been trying to sort it out. It's exclusive. It's only good for people who've got money, disposable incomes. Poor people, no. They have to go to public hospitals, and public hospitals, usually, they have these problems we're talking about. People are overworked, lack of facilities, misdiagnosis, corruption, congestion. Now, so these things are state-induced. It's not that they don't know these things, because they invoke development, but they do not look at development from a holistic perspective. You don't talk about development in terms of a road, in terms of building a classroom, CDF, in terms of building a railway network, SGR, in terms of modernizing an airport, JK. No, development is about people, and about people in terms of their health, in terms of quality education, in terms of food security, in terms of housing. People spend a lot of money in urban areas and developing countries on housing. On housing, because why? They don't live in houses that they own. Why? Because it's expensive for those people to do what? To own houses in urban areas. And why is it expensive? It's expensive because land is expensive. Land is expensive. So land, the principal factor of production, is so prohibitive that many people can't afford. That translates into everything else. Every other thing, name it, the economy, it affects everything. So people can't afford housing. They are at the mercy of landlords and landladies who behave like Shylocks and stuff like that. You get? But a government that cares wants to put money in people's pockets, or to say this generation couldn't save. The father was saving to own a house. So the father's children, after they finish college and they start looking for a job, at least they'll have a roof over their head. They will not have to worry about paying rent. And if they are lucky and get a job, of course they'll get a job if the economy is working and functioning. They have got money to save. Subsequently, that breaks this vicious cycle of intergenerational poverty. That your father saved for a house. Now when you finish, your father may have retired and gone home, say, this house, you'll occupy it. You may buy your own house, but that's the beginning. That's what happens in other societies where people care about things like poverty. But here people just talk about poverty, Pipita. Governments talk about poverty, talk about development, talk about prosperity, talk about Vision 2030. But they do not look at what are the mechanisms to put in place to ensure that that vision is realized. What are the measures to put in place to ensure that you dent poverty? What are the measures to put in place to ensure that you reduce inequalities? And by reducing inequalities and poverty, you're reducing chances of this country sliding into political instability as a result of discontent and disillusionment for a society, a government that does not work for the majority of the people. So privatization, I'm afraid, is part of this systematic, deliberate policy of impoverishment, of pauperization of Kenyan people. Unfortunately, that's what it means. So these people will tell you, look, you have to talk to the investor. But how do you talk to the investor? The investor wants to make money. You have to talk to how do you talk to that person? Sometimes that person is not even available locally. Or sometimes they come up with some very weird names, but they're the same people who are owning these companies. That's how callous they may be. So profit over human dignity, human life, over prosperity is our enduring shortfall as far as the government of Kenya is concerned. I didn't begin with William Ruto. It has been there since the beginning. And people wonder, when you get into business, if you get into business, you won't break even. They will come to you with 1,001 taxes and levies. You won't break even. So you go sit at home, you get into farming. You get into farming, they come up with these bills, very draconian. What do you do? Will people start eating rocks? Where do they get even those rocks? You're going to be arrested. You're found to somebody else's farm, breaking rocks. So you want these people to starve to death? So I think, Pipita, we are already in the hands of private individuals, cartels. You hear this word cartel. In other countries, cartels are criminal entities, and the government fights them. But in Kenya, cartels are state actors. Because why are those people not reined in? You are talking about cartels in the tea sector. You're talking about cartels in the coffee sector. You're talking about cartels in the sugar sector. How powerful are these people that you can't rein in? Because they're economic saboteurs. They're sabotaging the economy. They're actually making people die because they can't afford medicine. They can't afford healthcare. They're systematically ensuring that people can't break the vicious cycle of poverty. Because your child goes to a bad school. They don't pass exams. They're condemned to poverty. It's not like They are not clever, they are brilliant. But the system is rigged. And that's why anybody who is invoking privatization, want to privatize stadia, want to privatize the airport, want to privatize, I don't know, state buildings and stuff, that person is out to hurt the Kenyan people where it hurts most. Their dignity, their lives, and their futures and the future of their children and their children's children. That's the most unfortunate thing. And I'm afraid we're not having this conversation robustly enough because we've been socialized to think, because remember in Kenya we're Eurocentric. We're capitalists through and through. When people raise questions, you easily dismiss them as lazy. When you raise questions about egalitarianism, about equity, about equality, people would really dismiss you as lazy or as a socialist. But who told you that socialism is a swear word? Who told you that capitalism is a cure to our problems? Who told you that? Who told you that socialism fails and capitalism succeeds? Who told you that? That is the problem we have, Peter, with this privatization thing. It's only that the Kenyan political elite are completely detached from their people and they think there are no consequences for behaving like that. So this health sector thing, you can see what it is. It's meant for profit. You know, private entities, private companies, NHIF was like that, truth be told, but then that was supposed to be addressed. But this one is official. There is nowhere the money that is being set aside, you can go to any hospital and get any treatment. There's no money. And this was meant to help senior citizens. All Kenyans, but specifically senior citizens. Shosho, Mama, Kuka, Koko, in rural areas. That you can get NHIF for, senior citizens, your elderly parents. When they fall sick, they go into hospital and they get treated. I'm not so sure that going forward that will be possible. You'll have to fork money from your pocket. How much money do you have? Even for those who are working and those who don't work. So what do you do when you fall sick? You can imagine that we're talking about elections while actually we have existential problems facing us. And that's why even that talk about 2027 election presupposes that we're living in normal conditions, that the circumstances under which we're living are normal. They're not normal. They're life-negating circumstances. That is my submission, Pipita. And then, Pipita, as I just learned, you had read something up from Nixon Kerwa. Nixon says something here that I invoked Haiti, and Haiti is a failed state. We should not take a referendum. No, Pipita, and I'll repeat it.
You read it? I reread it.
Pardon?
He says this. I'm sorry to disagree with Western about Haiti. Haiti is a failed state. We should not take reference.
Correct. Peter, that statement, what it does, it evokes a very problematic notion called Kenya's exceptionalism. Kenya's exceptionalism. Like when you try to draw parallels between Kenya and South Sudan, some Kenyans will become jittery. How can you do that? Or if you try to draw parallels between Kenya and Tanzania, they'll tell you, no, we are not on par. Ethiopia, you're not on par. But that's not really true. It's not really true. It's not born out of evidence. So that's not what I said, actually. What I said was that Haiti has got unparalleled place in the history of Black people, both on the continent of Africa and in the diaspora, in the Caribbean and in North America, and even in Latin America, Brazil and those places. Why? Because Haiti is where slaves, the first country, first nation, where slaves revolted against slavery, against slave owners, and prevailed in a revolutionary fashion. They did it. And it said that is the price they have paid subsequently. Because they made other societies that were thriving on slavery they raise the consciousness of people who are under slavery in other societies that actually we can defeat slavery, we can rise up. That we can't take away from it. And that's why when the troops, Kenyan troops, other police officers are sent to Haiti, Haitians and people in the US and in the diaspora and across Africa, if you have met them, they ask, but how can you Kenyans do that? You don't know the mess in Haiti, who is responsible for it? You don't know you're being used as proxies in Haiti and that kind of thing. You are not conversant with the history of Haiti and how Haiti has paid the ultimate price as a result of external interference, whether by the Americans and the French and those kind of people. How can you, go to Haiti as the guys who are going to fix the mess in Haiti? Well, that's about the Kenyan political elite. Honestly, I've just read that they will be having the France-Africa summit next year in Nairobi. Now, we're just doubling down in our lack of appreciation of the history of this continent and globally. Francophonie, the relationship between former French colonies and France, is very problematic. It's very problematic. Any student who has studied political science, international relations, that topic never misses. It never misses anywhere. The problematic relationship between France and its former colonies in Africa is paternalistic, is exploitative, it's degrading, it's dehumanizing, it is soaked in racism since then until now. Nairobi is holding that conference. Well, you expect that to happen. What else do you expect? Because we don't think history matters in Kenya. We think we're the best. In fact, we're going to cite that as one of the indicators that we're this globally competitive and stuff like that. We're punching above our weight. We're wading into some very murky history. That history is very murky, frankly speaking. But, Pepita, there we are. So, I caution my fellow compatriots against this blithe use of phrases like failed state. Because somebody will tell you we're also a failed state. We've just talked about healthcare. If 80, 85, 90% of your people cannot access quality healthcare, what are you? Aren't you a failed state? You are a failed state. If majority of your young people, youth, energetic, trained, skilled, cannot get decent jobs, what are you? No, let's run with this phrase about failed state. What are you? If majority of your people cannot afford to train their children, take them to quality schools and pay, or those who are already in college, universities cannot afford, they risk dropping out, what are you? What are you? If majority of your people have no housing, decent houses, they live in shanty towns, informal settlements, popularly referred to as slums in Kenya. What are you? No, what are you? What are you? No, it's good, well and good to describe Haiti as failed without drawing in the context and the history. That we are better, you don't reference Haiti when you're talking about Kenya. Okay, answer me those questions. What are you? If majority of people have no future, they have no future, what are you? If your political elite are so callous, completely immune to the interests of the citizenry, once they get elected, they are preoccupied with amassing wealth illicitly. They have no regard for the rule of law. If in your country, when people go to protest, over 100 or so, or almost 100 people get extrajudicially shot dead, and others disappear, and there are kidnappings happening in the street, what are you? How different are you from Haiti, whose streets are teeming with gangs and violence? What are you? So I'm saying this Kenyan exceptionalism, American exceptionalism, or South African exceptionalism, whatever it is, it's a reductive kind of approach to issues. It makes you think that you're immune to the problems that other people are going through, and you don't have to do anything. But in reality, you realize you're no better than a Haitian, whose life, as I've said, the lifespan of a Haitian is 24 hours renewable. 24 hours renewable. When you wake up in the morning, if you go to bed in the evening, well, you count those 24 hours as that's your lifespan. You see what tomorrow has in store. Even during the night, you don't know something could happen. So it's renewable. Do you know of a country like that? The same thing in Kenya. If the police meet you, if you're especially a young person, in those informal settlements, where's your ID? Do you know what could proceed out of that question, where's your ID? Do you know what could proceed out of that? Or they stop you by the roadside. You are a motorist. When they ask you for your driver's license, or they say you are drunk, do you know what could follow out of that encounter, seemingly innocuous? Do you know what could follow? Something tragic could happen out of that. Or you go to the streets to protest against some injustice, which is guaranteed by the Constitution. But you're not so sure whether you go home in one piece. I mean, how can you say we can't invoke Haiti? We shouldn't do that, because when we do that, it means we think that the things that we are facing are normal. We are well run. We have got good governance. We have got constitutionalism. We're not like Haiti. There's food security. We have good roads. We don't lose people through road accidents. Politicians don't steal money. And politicians go to jail when they betray public interest. Do we have that kind of a country? So failed state is a very dicey phrase and concept to use to refer to countries, especially in Africa, because it does not factor in the colonial history of these countries. It doesn't. It just makes it that these societies are inherently dysfunctional. And the people who inhabit these societies are dysfunctional. The Congolese are just fighting. They love fighting. Well, you have to bring in the history. You have to bring in the history to understand what's happening. Nigeria is a chaotic country mired in corruption, but you have to bring in the history to make sense of what's happening. But when you just say this is a failed state, when you pathologize members of that community and you don't make sense of what's going on. So I'm cautioning Nixon and others that please, there's nothing like Kenyan exceptionalism. We are no different from Burundi. We're not any different from Rwanda, from Congo, from South Sudan, from Ethiopia, from Somalia, from Haiti. We're not. We betray attributes that all those countries betray to varying degrees. And if our politicians continue working like this, what makes you think that we cannot, be characterized as a failed state officially in not so distant future? What makes you think so? Thank you, Pepita.
I see Wiki has raised his hand. Wiki, what's up?
There's something I wanted just to mention about the diversion of attention of the Gachagua impeachment. Do you hear me, PP?
Yes, I can hear you.
I think the impeachment motion is something irrelevant to us as Kenyans, because that is not where our focus is. There's no problem with Gachagua praying in the mountain and saying, Usiguze mulima. What we need to tell the government that there's time for everything. There was time for election, there was time for campaigns, and there was time for celebration after the election, whether it was stolen or not. What we need is accountability. And if Gachagua is not resonating well with the current government, if it is a true war, not the case we saw between Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto, if it is a true war, then we can say that regarding Gachagua is a truthful man. That is why he cannot resonate well with the Kenya Kwanza government, because Kenya Kwanza governments are full of lies day in, day out. So, you see, we were fighting government against the increased taxation. And right now, we have stayed aside and we see them fighting. I think it is good when we see them fighting. It means there is no dirty deal going on. So if you see them quiet, then there's a dirty deal going on. So let us, these people should not divert our attention that impeaching Gachagua is the best thing for the country as we speak. Otherwise, How will impeaching Gachagua reduce the school fee for university students? How will impeachment of Gachagua reduce the cost of living? And how will impeaching Gachagua fight corruption? So we call upon our brothers and sisters who are working in different sectors, please give us the information from the sectors where you are, and let us put them in public, discuss them. And these are the points we shall move with to the public to tell them during the civic education we are doing currently. Thank you, PP. That was my insight.
Okay, thank you. It's raining heavily here, so if you guys hear some static, mjue ni hivyo bana. Kazi tunaifanya hadi mvua ikinyesha. Brother Bernard, you have something before we go to heavyweight?
Okay, what I would want to say is that if you're familiar with chess, you'd know that what is happening in Kenya right now is a chess game. You use your pawns to do stupid, foolish moves to distract your opponent, and then you use your bishop, your queen to make serious big moves. That's what is happening in Kenya right now, because we are here, we are seated and observing as the country and its parliamentarians try to impeach the deputy president, and silently the president is moving around. By the way, I happened to interact with a certain video of him speaking live on cable news network, where he managed again to call us criminals on the international space when he was asked about the protests, and he said a whole bunch of stuff. So let no one lie to you. This whole impeachment charade is just but a front. It's just but a front. These guys know what they are doing. So they know, as Kenyans, we are people who are easily swayed. We go with what is trending at the moment. Unaingia Twitter, you find impeachment is trending, your mind is easily swayed to impeachment. You ask people right now if they remember who Adani is, they won't really tell you who Adani is, because their mind is on Gachagua and impeachment. You see, that is the game they are playing. They're just playing a long con that people are not really familiar with. That's why we are trying to tell people, stay woke, be keen, don't be easily swayed. Because these guys, they will do anything. They will stoop so low to ensure that their interests always succeed.
Someone told me that politicians have no shame, and if you listen to the way they speak, even in public, you realize these people possess no ounce of shame. Be careful of how low you want to go with them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Home Run with Pipi. Skiza hiyo.
You're now listening to MC Pipita on Home Run with Pipi.
To get us to 8 p.m. heavyweight, how are you doing?
Asante sana for the opportunity. I hope all of you can hear me. So,
loud and clear.
Thank you. So, in the past, corruption used to take the form of kickbacks from projects or receiving payment and then not delivering air. Nepotism, where contracts were awarded to connected people or to cronies, to your cronies. But now, Mr. Ruto Adani is taking it to a totally different level. Mr. Ruto Adani wants to own Kenya. He wants us to be his slaves. He wants us to be his subjects. And he wants to reap and eat this country eternally, forever and ever. I know a lot of people are quite angry right now, but I would like to commend, first of all the activists and everybody who is going to court to challenge everything that Mr. Adani is doing. And I'd like to assure you that these court orders are perpetual. Court orders will outlive Mr. Ruto. Court orders will outlive Chirchir. court orders will outlive Masengeli. Even when Masengeli is retired, the court order that he goes to jail or the judgment that he goes to jail is still going to be live. All these orders, the court has stopped the chief, court has stopped this, court has stopped that, but Mr. Ruto has used his thorax to push it through. All these things are alive, and they are going to be alive perpetually. So we need to have hope, and we need to believe that one day somebody with goodwill is going to come, take over this country. Well, let me rephrase that. We are going to take over power. We are going to put one of our own there. Of national importance. People trying
Wait. Heavyweight, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Talk to
Sorry,
me.
I had to switch off the mic and back on. So where did you lose me?
People are chasing clout.
Yes, I was saying it really pains me when people are chasing clout or people are making fun and dry humor out of things of national importance. We need to stop that. Right now, we are in a war with Mr. Ruto, and Mr. Ruto has a gun. So we have to set aside our pen. We have to arm ourselves with a gun. So that, because you cannot go to a gunfight with a pen, we have to change our approach in how we communicate to the government, how we pass our messages across to the government. We have to start, for example, hijacking these government events and using the same platform that the government uses to spread propaganda to pass our message as the people. We need to storm any town hall they are going to have. We are not going to allow them to handpick people, pay them to go and spread propaganda. Any town hall that is happening close to you, please just go and storm it. Anything organized by government is organized by our resources and is public. There is no exclusivity in government. The government cannot say this event is only for so and so. So we need to start storming these events. We need to start that. When people talk of civic education and how we are going to do civic education, which platform is better than a roadshow which we have hijacked, organized by the government, which we have hijacked? Because the government is very deliberate on what it does. So it will be very, very deliberate. If it wants to pass propaganda, it's very deliberate on its plans so that this propaganda reaches as many people as possible. If we are able to hijack that information, then our anti-privatization message, our anti-Ruto message can reach the same people that they were intending to give the propaganda to. I mean, it's very, very painful. I'm not personally, after the protests of the 25th of June, and I have to say, at that point, quite a number of people I know and myself were beginning to lose hope in this country. Because every day you wake up to negativity. Every day you wake up to propaganda. But when we went to the streets on the 25th and we achieved what we had set out to achieve, it gave a lot of people a new lease of life. Then Ruto came, met with this welder from Bondo, played a little propaganda. It got into under some of our skins. Some of us gave up. Some of us started feeling hopeless again. I'd like to encourage you and tell you, this is a long game we are playing. Kaa ngumu kabisa. Because again, Rome was not built in a day. But we already have the building blocks. Spaces like this, people talking freely, young men moving around the country doing civic education out of their own pockets. So we already have the building blocks for Rome. You know, just look at this. Just try and understand this. Chief is designed to take money from people's pockets so that somebody can use this money for whatever purpose they intend to, so that this money can be stolen. Now, renovating JKIA using the correct procedure is going to bring money into our pockets as Kenyans. You know, in a government which is running honestly, in an honest government, in a government which is running like it should, renovating the JKIA is going to impact the lives of Kenyans positively because it is bringing in money. Now, in the two scenarios, this one which is meant to steal from Kenyans, 104 billion shillings is easily and made readily available, probably from a mattress account somewhere, to fund something that is going to take money from you, to fund something that is going to make you poorer, to fund something that is going to really, really oppress you. This is almost half of the money which the same government claims they do not have to upgrade JKIA, to bring more revenue into the government, to ensure the government meets its bills. Guys, you see the kind of fight we are in? You see why we cannot give up? Now, I'll finish maybe by some quick reminders. Some points I'll not explain. The police, as currently constituted, are our enemy. All the laws that Parliament has
Allah. What's up, guys? What's up?
Sorry, nimepotea tena.
Ulikuwa sema all the laws that the parliament?
All the laws that Parliament has passed from, I think, 2010, when the courts found that Parliament was unconstitutionally comprised or unconstitutionally put together, are null and void. So guys, don't worry. Don't worry. Let Ruto cook himself, continue cooking himself. His days are numbered. And the third thing, I want us to now start telling all the politicians, and I liked what one of us said in an interview recently. When we refer to the politicians and to the elections and how we intend to change these politicians and these MPs and everybody, please don't tell them we are sending them home, because these guys don't deserve to go to a home. These guys don't deserve the luxuries of a common Kenyan. These guys are criminals. So we should tell them we are sending all of them to jail. And we have to make sure the next person we get, we give him a mandate to send all these people to jail. Ruto should not go to Sugoi when we get him out of there. Ruto should go straight to jail. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Hi, asante sana Heavyweight for that. That submission by Heavyweight gets us to 8 p.m., 6 minutes past 8 p.m. Let's go.
Social conversations, engaging topics on your phone anywhere. This is Home Run with PP.
Fridays are turning out to be town hall meetings here on Home Run at PP. Of course, this is your social conversation spaces where we let you give us your thoughts on various issues that affect us. Kama wa Kenya. And of course, this show is supported 100% by you, the listener. If you're here now, we are on our final hour of the week. Hey, manze, that means I've been here live for more than 26 hours or 25. And so have you if you have been listening the whole of this week. I'm trying to see if there is any other question that is running up hivi kwenye comment section. You can request the microphone. We still have about 53 minutes before we leave. Sarem anasema when a person doesn't know the meaning of poverty, when you fail to pay school fee, then you want to privatize everything. That is not fair. Reject Chief and Adani. That is Serem Kip Kemboy. And I read all the comments so far, so good. So shout out to everybody who's tuned in. Samia nakuona pale ndani, Kenyan nakuona pale, Oseyo Mkana Ward Goddess ngine Serem nakuona pale ndani, Orina, big up to you as well. Tabi nakuona naona pia Abdul Mkana. Now I know Brother Bernard, you interact with the students pale wa university. What is the feeling about this new social this education model, this funding model, Aziz?
Okay. A few weeks ago, I think there was a session that was hosted in JKUAT, where was it? I know Senator Onyonka was in attendance, and with some other parliamentarians and such, they were discussing about this funding model. What I know is this thing has raised a lot of questions. We don't need to even sit down and interact with comrades to know that this thing is highly or heavily disadvantaging people from all over the country. You see, we came from a period of you just sit your KCSE and you get a fair chance to come to campus, to a period whereby if you don't have any money, you can't get any higher level education. That is what we are having currently. If you pay keen attention to the tweets that are posted by individuals who are mostly in campus, especially those who've joined the cohort of 2022-2023 and this year's cohort, you'll find that they are, can I say, urging or rather complaining to help to disburse their funds. There's a certain guy who's been on my timeline like crazy, complaining to help about disbursing funds and how those people are diverting amounts of money to other people's accounts. I don't know, nepotism is at play heavily. So what I can see, or rather what I've noticed from this model that is being passed around, is that you see the main reason as to why the June 25th protests were highly successful is that the people who are running the protests are educated human beings, and there is no one who is as free as someone who has an educated mind. You cannot do anything to that person. They might not have a job, they might not have an income, but they also have nothing to lose, and they have an independent mind, and they are learned, so they know things. So it's very hard to manipulate or control what they say, what they feel, and what they will do. So this new model of education has been introduced, can I say, like a filtration system. You see, from the lower primary to the junior secondary to the high school and such, we have 100% transition or so, if you can say. We've been seeing the government heavily pushing for that. But with the introduction of this new model, we won't have people who have degrees in the country. In a few years' time, just watch what the government is trying to do. We won't have people who have degrees as much as we do right now. And the main reason for that is it's easy to control people who are, can I say, slightly educated, because you'll need a small amount of time to convince someone who has a high school certificate that this is what should be done, or rather this is what happens. But for you to convince a degree this is the way to go and this is what is best for the country, you have to make sense, you have to be practical, you have to have all those things that prove that what you're saying is correct. So their aim is to ensure that the elite population in Kenya is reduced, so that when they say turn left, you turn left, turn right, you turn right. People are struggling. If you can just randomly ask students who are in campus right now, I am sure a lot of people have had a very rough September. Because you see, the economy is tough and it's tough everywhere. People don't have incomes, people have incomes of very few, it's a small margin. Now, those who are in campus heavily rely on their parents, brothers, sisters, well-wishers and such. So if these well-wishers don't have the economic freedom that is expected so that they can support these people who are in campus, how do you expect these people who are in campus to survive when the model itself that claims will disburse money to them so that they can move and at least live freely? I don't think freely is the word, but you can infer the meaning from the context. At least people to get a chance of even affording chapati beans of like 50 shillings. You see, it's hard. Now, when you put people in such a state, make people desperate. When you make people desperate, they will do anything so that they can at least live a better life. Unaona? So students right now, I think from this model works for, I think it works for the students who've joined last year and this year onwards. They are really going to have a tough time. That's what I can say. And it's clearly evident. They're really going to have a tough time, because imagine you come from a humble background. Your family had a cow or two that you guys used to survive by selling milk to the nearest vendor so that you can get money for daily survival. Then that cow had to be sold so that you can at least come to university. And now that cow is gone, the government has a hope for you that you will get some amount of money so that you can live through campus, and then they decide to play around with that. And even the way they choose the beneficiaries of these models, usually there are people who are placed in positions where someone does not need any additional funding or any sponsorship from the government, but that is the largest, or rather the hugest beneficiary of the funds that are supposed to go and help those people who are coming from very disabled backgrounds financially. You see, that is the current state on the ground. People are in despair. If you want to see people starting to turn into a life of crime in campus, mchana ako class pale anasoma calculus yake polepole, usiku sababu ana chakula amelala njaa siku mingi, pesa yenye anafaa kupata hapati, si huyu jamaa si atakupiga ngeta tu, and that is what will happen, and there is nothing we can do. It's the government that we are in, it's the economy that we are subjected to. So I can say with confidence that students are having it rough. If they're not having it rough, they are going to be having it rough. In just a short while, they're going to start feeling the weight. Unaona? Because let's say kuna leniency ya kuseme first year hauisikii vizuri. When you get to second year, third year, fourth year, you will feel the weight of that lack of financial freedom. And that is what we are being subjected to in Kenya. And as we can see, if this model is as good as they claim it will be, why are we having complaints? You know, we cannot hear people complaining because our attention is focused on other things. Obviously, when the government, when the country is all riled up about impeaching the deputy president, the news that is supposed to be news, which is the common cries of comrades and such. And these comrades will live here, will finish school, go out there and commit suicide because in their workplaces they won't be paid. That is what we are living in currently. And we do hope that in whatever we are trying to do, or rather in whatever we are trying to achieve, we do hope that we create a better country for ourselves. And we do hope that this government decides to do the right thing, because there's no way you would decide to automatically kill the future of everyone. Because you see, education used to give hope to people, especially if you are of a poor economic background. At least education gives you, and by education I specifically refer to a higher level of education, that is a degree and onwards. It gives you the exposure you need to know where you can fit in as an individual. Because if you don't have you don't come from a family where you can be given a hand in terms of financial prowess, then education will give you a platform where you can at least scout for somewhere you can fit in. But now, with this new model, it means that if you don't have that money, then you'll just end up poor, you'll just end up dying. You just end up hopeless, and there is nothing as worse as a hopeless nation. And remember, right now, the median population in our country is of the age 18, 19, 20, 21. That is the age of campus students. If you want to see a country plunged into a very huge rampage, we all know. Maybe we are not focused on Bangladesh heavily because we are trying to do something on our end here as Kenya. But what happened in Bangladesh was due to the same things that our government is trying to push right now. And Bangladesh, they had very serious riots, to the extent that their government had to literally shut the internet so that the world cannot see what was happening in their country. It was because of that. Because you see, what the government has been trying to do is turn the economy to a capitalist economy, whereby for you to get everything in life, you need to have money. You see, in countries like America, we hear when people just get their first kid, when they are born, they set up a separate account for their college fund. That is what the government wants us to start doing. But you see, you cannot start people. You cannot tell people to start setting up accounts for college funds for kids who are already in college. Setting up college funds, and you haven't provided a stable economy with sufficient employment and flowing cash so that they can at least have that money to set aside for that college fund. These effects of this thing we cannot maybe identify them right now with the required magnitude that it deserves, but give it time, because they will try as much as they can to bulldoze this thing down our throats. Because see, even was it Ruto was in Bomas of Kenya, I think. Was it in August or July, where he was talking about the funding model, and he was with the various student leaders, and he was there trying to defend this thing, and basically we couldn't see or make the sense out of what he was trying to tell us about this new model of sending students to the university. And a lot of student leaders who are there were really trying to insist on the point that the comrades have sent us here to tell you that this thing cannot work, and we are not going to come here and try and do as per what you wish, because when we go back to our comrades, they are going to greet us. That is what they were telling him. And I don't know if this government wants to pay keen attention to whatever we say, but I guess we will find out how this thing goes. But as per what is happening on the ground, people are struggling. Yeah, people are struggling. And the struggle, everyone in this space understands that when you're in campus, the largest struggle you face is financial struggle. So people have had to do very odd things so as to survive in campus. And imagine at that time you had subsidized amount of school fees since the government was funding all public institutions comfortably, and still you experienced the struggle. Now imagine we are in a place where in JKUAT here, we used to have students who are in the, we call it the College of Human Resource Department. These people who do journalism, corporate communication, and all those courses that you see people graduate after like 3 and 3.5 years. We had people, all students who they used to have a tri-semester. That is, they do first semester, second semester, and then they immediately go to second year, unlike those of other colleges who have to go for a long holiday or attachments. Now, this academic year that started last year, September, the students who joined first year and did their first semester and second semester had to forcibly go for a long holiday. The school was empty from between May to August, because the government has decided to constantly play with funds that can at least enable students to constantly study. So the effect of mismanagement of funds is slowly seeping into our daily lives, and we really wish that can be corrected. Ikianza na hapo penye funding to universities such that they have to cut back on semesters. If you see a university literally cutting back on semesters, and there's nothing JKUAT loves as school time. JKUAT, by the way, they have several times where people have had strikes na bado masomo inaendelea chini ya maji. Unaona? But sasa the school had to literally cut back on a whole semester for students, so simply because there are no funds to fund students in school. Now imagine no funds to fund students in school. Now a financial model who we are 100% sure is meant to benefit a few people in the country, and no job opportunities. What do you expect out of that? I'll leave it at that.
Hi, mnasikia hiyo issue. You know, I was chatting today this morning. I woke up very angry, and I'm gonna ask you guys to just let me read this. But before that, let me read the comments section of that. Thank you so much. That was Okeke, who is telling us a story of what is happening down in the university. That's a university student, yeah. So mna imagine what they are going through pale hivi, unasikia they are going through hunger. I saw a video of a student akiwa amelala amekaa kando ya barabara, amefungiwa nyumba. Yeah. So you can imagine how bad it is in that place, in universities right now, given the confusion. And you know, the president just recently launched a 120-person committee. So probably sijui unajua ku-launch na kufanya kazi ni vitu different. So let's see how the post-launch committee will work. It's about 26 minutes past the top of the hour. Western, are you there, Western, today? Western, are you there? Ala, ama alikuwa anainua mkono bahati mbaya. Can you talk to me, Western? Okay. Looks like it was a mistaken identity. Najua hizi microphones zinaweza kutia aibu sana. That's why we don't go with them to the bedrooms. Those kids watu wanaenda na simu bedroom. Hadi tunasikia kwamba spaces have invaded bedrooms.
Social conversations, engaging topics on your phone anywhere. This is Home Run with Pippy.
Mama nyumba ama baba nyumba anaamka saa 7 ya usiku, umetukanana na mtu kwa space vibaya sana, mwambie wewe mshanzi, naweza kununua wewe na familia yako yote. Anashangaa kwani tena nini inaendelea hapa hivi? Kumbe mtu tu amekataa kuchukua point yako, sasa umewaka. Naweza wanunua wote. Anashangaa kwani savings zetu za mortgage namna gani hapa baba Jemo? Kwanza those time spaces used to be full of drama, yeah. I'm glad I've come full circle with them. But unanisikia sasa Western? Zetu za mortgage namna gani?
Peter, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. Thanks. There was some hiccup with the mic this side.
Yeah, but I can hear you now.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Peter, I don't know. Like, why do we think an impeachment motion is a trivial matter in a democracy? Why do we think it's a trivial matter? Impeachment is part of a repertoire of checks and balances in a democracy. It is. It has got a function. The problem is that we have got wrong people. If they go ahead and impeach the deputy president, we've got the wrong people about to do the right thing. You get it? And the wrong person doing the right thing does not negate the rightness of the action that they have taken. To give an illustration, it's like a drunkard telling you that excessive consumption of alcohol is detrimental to your health. You can't say what they are telling you is not factually correct because they are a drunkard. It's factually correct whether they excessively drink alcohol or not. If a smoker tells you that smoking non-stop has got far-reaching health consequences, you cannot dispute what they are saying because they haven't stopped smoking themselves. What they're telling you is factually correct, regardless of their lifestyle. So here we've got wrong people about, if they go ahead to impeach the deputy president, about to do the right thing. And the rightness of their decision is not negated by their lack of principles. I think that must be understood clearly, such that I think we have normalized bad manners among the political elite to the extent that we have been desensitized to bad manners by the political elite. And that's extremely unfortunate. Because if you hold a position of a president or a deputy president or a cabinet minister or a governor, some high-profile position in any country, and you take to the podium and openly propagate politics of prejudice and othering, in no normal society would people give you a pass. In no normal society. In fact, in the US, Donald Trump has got problems because that is his brand of politics. You know, spreading hate and prejudice and racism, those kind of things. He has got problems because of that, doesn't he? So why do we think it's normal in our society, in our country, for a politician and none other than one who occupies the position of a deputy president, only a heartbeat away from the president, to normalize politics of hate and ethnic nationalism? Why do we think it's normal? It's not normal. It's not normal. If you think it's normal, you have to read countries that have experienced ethnic cleansing and genocide and warlordism, that kind of politics, where politicians' legitimacy is not drawn from, the cross-section of the plurality of the country, where their legitimacy is not drawn from the multicultural nature of their society, but from their ethnic group. That's warlordism. That kind of politics is always problematic in any country, whether it's in Kenya, South Sudan, whichever country. It's problematic because such a politician usually uses human shields for defense. But if you come after me using state institutions, I will set the country ablaze. I will set the country ablaze. I'm going to work up ethnic sentiment, and if you don't stop, there will be no country. You can't do that. That's what Adolf Hitler did. He spread prejudice, and before people realized 6 million Jews and many other people were dead. That's what happened in Rwanda under Habyarimana. There was something called Hutu ideology, spread through the media, print and electronic, demonizing Tutsi and Hutu who were sympathetic to Tutsi. And before people realized, almost 1 million people were dead. It's not small matter. Politics of hate and ethnicization to say, no, the Adani thing is more important. No, it's not a small matter. It's not a small matter. Politicians who don't hold back when it comes to speaking pejoratively about members of a collective society, actually they're setting up ground for carnage. That's the kind of stuff genocide is made of. That's the kind of stuff ethnic cleansing is made of, frankly speaking, without a doubt. So we can't normalize that kind of politics. When you are a deputy president, let me ask you, you make it clear that this government is going to serve a particular fraction of the country. Why would that be normal? Why would that be normal? It can't be normal because it's only that we are competing during elections. People have their own choice. They prefer this candidate. The other ones prefer that candidate. And they can only be one president at a time. So one candidate prevailed as opposed to this other one and that one. But the winners should always be the people of Kenya. That irrespective of the person who wins elections, the winners will be the people of Kenya. And they will not be punished because they voted in one way or the other. I mean, I thought these were fairly, things that are just normal. Why would somebody say, no, you didn't vote properly and therefore you are not entitled to this thing they call development? Why should somebody say because your community did not vote for this government, so people from that community shouldn't be appointed to this government? Don't they pay tax? Aren't they bona fide citizens of that country? Isn't that what democracy entails? That we're going to differ, but that our differences don't translate into enmity. We're not enemies because we differ politically. Why do we translate our political differences into enmity? And we tolerate politicians actually thriving on that kind of politics. And therefore, we think it's a small matter, it's a trivial matter for a politician who thrives on that kind of politics to be around and say, no, everybody else is doing it. Okay, so does that normalize it? Because everybody else is doing it. Those who are doing it, their turn will come. You completely make it impossible. History is important. So that those who come later, they will realize, oh, if deputy president has ever been impeached, you must behave. A president has ever been impeached in this country, you must behave. And we characterize ourselves as tribalists. So why do we have a soft spot for somebody who spreads ethnic bigotry? No, this movement, so we're tribalists. Okay, so isn't it ironic that we're tribalists, but we've got a soft spot for people who propagate politics of tribalism and hate and ethnic bigotry? Isn't that ironic? It is. Because if I say I'm part of the movement and I'm tribalist, and I see you, a member of parliament, a president, a deputy president, whatever position you hold, you are spreading hate. Clearly, I cannot have a soft spot for you, irrespective of who are the people who want to bring you down. I couldn't care less because I don't subscribe to your politics. And it's possible. I'm against you and I'm also against those who are bringing you down. Yes, I'm against you, the victim, and these people who have ganged up against you. Why should I take sides? Why should I take sides? So I don't get it, Peter, when we say this is a small matter, we must, well, the Adani thing is because of bad governance. As we've said on this platform, it's bad governance. And what are the symptoms of bad governance? This infighting you see amongst the politicians, and in this case, the presidency, the president and his deputy, that's a sign of bad governance. So when that is actually the clearest sign of bad governance, that they're not reading from the same script. They do not have concurrence on where to take Kenya. They seem not to have had an agenda when they won elections. They are fixing things on the hoof. This is trial and error. They have no roadmap on where to take Kenya. That is the clearest reading of what's going on. And therefore, it's free fall for the country. You see those things of Adani, those things of Chief, those things of those bills, those are symptoms of bad governance. So those things, the hub, if you like it, the hub of all those things, JKI, bills, what have you, it's this bad governance where the center cannot hold. The center can't hold. Everything else is falling apart. So actually that is the nucleus of the problem. The Adani thing is just an indication that the nucleus is rotten. Bad political culture. That's what you're talking about. So going forward, I want to ask, are we going to normalize whereby we expect that the president will not get along with his deputy going forward? Because I hear that a lot. Oh, the president has never gotten along with his deputy. Oh, Boy did not get along with him. Oh, Kenyatta one did not get along with him. So do we normalize that kind of behavior going forward? Do we? We expect it. These people, they're just friends before they get into office. Once they get into office, they'll fall apart. And everything else will fall apart. People will take sides in government. They'll be bickering. The media will not focus on anything. Everybody else will be talking. Do we want to normalize that? We cannot. It's bad manners, bad political culture. And no matter how many times this happens, we should never normalize this. We shouldn't. Go, if you have got evidence against it, go and to table that evidence in parliament, proceed. You don't keep people in affairs over something like that. There's business to do. But we know that whoever was, if he was to be impeached, whoever replaces him would not be any different in terms of moral rectitude, in terms of commitment to the rule of law. That we know, because our pool, you hardly get politicians who tower head and shoulders above this fray of our politics. It's politics of personalities, politics of, somebody will call it the smallness of our politics. That idea, our politics is so small, it's not big. It's entrapped in small things, personalities, who is making money, who is calling who names. That's small politics, it's not big politics. So the question we're asking, because we are tired of this kind of politics, do we normalize it? We cannot afford to normalize it, because then the country will be stuck in this morass for generations to come. We cannot. You go ahead, table the motion in parliament, dispense with it. He prevails, he prevails. You impeach him, we want to proceed. We always say Kenya is bigger than everyone else. It should be bigger, that no one is indispensable. Whether you're a president or the deputy president, you're indispensable. It will go on. Because there are very many capable people in Kenya who can occupy those positions. Those positions are not birthrights. That's what we're saying. So I have a problem. We are rallying behind individuals and saying, before this, William Ruto can dispense with Gachagua. Why? Because he'll argue that he had the discretion to select his running mate. Kenyans didn't have, a say in that. The only thing they did is that they voted for that ticket. Him as the presidential candidate and his deputy as a running mate. But they did not vote for a co-president. They voted for a president and his principal assistant. Yes, he would argue like that. I could have chosen somebody else. Some of them have come forward and said, no, even Gachagua was not their favorite. It was Ruto who picked him. I mean, he can argue that. Or the resurrection of who to pick. And therefore, the presidency does not have two presidents. It has got only one president. And I think it's important we understand that. Even under Uhuru Kenyatta, people used to talk of Uhuru and Ruto. No. That was Uhuru Kenyatta regime. And that's what history will record for years to come. People will talk about the Daniel Moi regime, 78, 2002. They will not talk about Daniel Moi Kibaki regime or Daniel Moi, Professor George Saitoti regime. It's a Daniel Moi regime. People talk about Kenyatta 1 regime, Jomo Kenyatta, 63, 78. They don't talk about Jomo Kenyatta, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga regime. No, they don't. Neither in the US. Do you remember who George Bush Jr.'s vice president was? Do you remember? Do you remember who Jimmy Carter's president was? Do you remember? Do you remember who Bill Clinton's vice president was? Do you remember? We don't. So it will be a Uhuru Kenyatta regime. Currently, it is a William Ruto regime. It's not a William Ruto Rigathi Gachagua regime. We have to perish that for sure. We must. Gachagua can be accused of, by association. You are a deputy president of this government, and therefore, you haven't spoken out against the excesses of this government. So you share blame. But you can't say that blame is equally shared. No, by association. And if he's done things in his capacity as one of the top-ranking leaders in this government, they will take the blame for that. But you can't share, say, no, these people equally share. No, they can't. Because you don't vote for two people as presidents. You only vote for one person as a president. Not two. So I think I find it problematic how we frame these conversations, honestly. I find it problematic. And it doesn't mean that William Ruto, if he has got a hand in the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, he's beyond reproach. He's not beyond reproach. And it doesn't mean that people will relent in their condemnation of what his regime is doing, or will relent in calling for his ouster. It won't. It will continue relentlessly.